Hey y'all. Good morning, my YouTube family and friends. I pray that everyone's having a beautiful, blessed Saturday in the mighty name of Jesus. And if you have not said it already, let's say it together. Thank you, Jesus, for another day. It is indeed a blessing to be alive, y'all. So we're at Amazon. I had to bring my daughter here for our interview. So we're doing that this morning, and we trying to, we got turned around, cause but you know, I'm not a quitter. I'm not a quitter. So I said we're gonna find this place. And as soon as I spoke that into the atmosphere. I said I'm not a quitter. We're gonna find it. And we made it here 8 minutes late, but it's okay. We made it. I feel like they gonna still see her. But anyway, it was supposed to be here at 10, but we got here at 10:08. But it's because the Google map took us. We're still, even though we've been here since 2022, it's still a lot of places we're not, And this part of Colorado, we're not really accustomed to being like driving around in. There's certain parts we know, like I know, exactly where to go and everything. But this is not one of the areas, and I should have known from where we live, which is a totally different city than what we're in now. But it told me to get on the highway that's a toll road. So I should have known that is a pretty good ways from where we were at. But I should have did like a test drive, yesterday when I got off work or something, just to, so I would know where I was coming. But it's okay. We made it. God allowed us to make it. But yeah, I'm not no quitter. I said, we're going to find this place. And we found, but it took me, the Google map is so weird. It had me way at a ballpark, which is like across the way from where we at, from the Amazon place. And I'm like, why is it? And I literally could see this building. I could see the blue. And I'm like, it's over there, but how do I get over there? And then I said, well, I'm just going to come out of the park, because the park is huge. It's like a big baseball park. And it's different areas where people playing ball. And I'm like, so we rode around over there for, I know, 15 minutes or 20 minutes, but it literally had me there for, turn right here. It was like I was in the right place, but I was like, this can't be the right place. And all the time I could see, the building over here. I was like, it's over there. I see it. But I couldn't figure out how to get over, because I thought one of the streets looped to this area, but I had to come out. Thank you, Holy Spirit. I had to come out of that place so I could be God could put me where I needed to be. So I was out, riding around in that same area, but he said, you need to come out. You got to come out of that place so I can show you what you need to see. And so that's what happened. So y'all, I'm learning. I just got to be patient with myself, because I'm so, it's so many times I'm so dependent upon this Google map. And my daughter, she uses, I forget the other ones that she uses, but that one does real good too. But until I get familiar with where I need to go, I need turn by turn, street by street. I got to know exactly. I need to know the general instruction. You can't tell me to get on the highway and take this street. You got to tell me every turn until I get familiar with where I'm going, and then I'm good after that. But we made it. She's still in there, so I guess they let her come on in. But it's just, y'all, I said it's too early for this. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. It's too early to be running around being lost. So yeah, I'm thankful to God for helping us make it here, because like I said, I wasn't going to give up, but I could tell she was sort of, like, we're not going to be able to find it, because she kept looking at the time. And I said, no, God going to help us. And so we made it. We ran a little late, but we made it here. But some of these young people, they working. Some of them going to work. It looks like it's a recruiting center and a working station, I guess, working place. But this one job, I never I applied to it when we were staying in the house when we first moved here. that was back in 2023. And my youngest son said, Mama, I don't think you meant to apply there. And I said, well, I used to work at a plant years ago. And he said, yeah, Mama, you was in your 20s. You 50 something now. And I said, son, it's older people working those places. What you trying to say? We ain't got it in us. And so anyway, he said, Mama, he's like, my mom ain't working. Cause I'm gonna tell y'all the reason I had applied there. I was sort of desperate mode, and that's when we were sort of not a good situation there. We had sort of used up all that policy money, because I had been paying bills, and the rent that we were staying at that house was pretty high a month. And so the money ain't gonna last forever. It's just, especially if you using it all the time. So anyway, and I was working at another job remotely, but I didn't work, that didn't work long at that job. So anyway, that money was dwindling away. And I was trying my best to save it and, just go through it real slow. But you got bills to pay. You just got bills to pay. But when I knew we couldn't stay in that house any longer. This was back in 2023. I knew we couldn't stay in that house any longer. I was like, well, I'm just gonna, I need to find me a job. And see, Amazon, that's one thing about Amazon, you're gonna get paid every week. So I was like, I have a check every week. So I was just trying to think, I wasn't gonna stay here, forever, but I knew at least, I could work there, if nothing else, maybe a month or two, just to get some money going so we could, stay afloat. But, my son said, Mama, that's not a good idea. Said, I just don't want you doing that. So he look after his mama, y'all. His dad would be so proud of him. He really look after his mama. But cause some sons don't care. So okay, gonna work. But he said I don't want my mama. I said, well, son, it ain't up to you. I said, and he said, Mama, I worked there, because he was a delivery driver for here. This was one of the jobs he got when we first moved here, but he didn't stay there long, because he said he didn't like how some of the neighborhoods was a little sketchy and this, that, and the other. So anyway, the job he had now, he been on it for almost I think going on 2.5 years now. He really liked that job. He worked at a car dealership. So anyway, that's where he's supposed to be, because the Lord has really been blessing him at that job. He's blessed the whole family, actually. So thank you, Holy Spirit. But anyway, when we walking in our purpose, when we walking in where God wants us to be, He'll take care of us. But yeah, I was sort of in desperate mode. And see, desperate mode is not where you want to be, y'all, because when you in that area, that desperate area, you all over the place. You're not focused. You're not, your mind ain't right. You're not thinking clear. You're not thinking clearly. You all over the place. And you just like, okay, I just need this, I need that. Because believe me, take it from me, I've been there. I know what I'm talking about. It's from experience. And I don't want to go back to that place ever again, because that's where the enemy has fun with us. We overthinking, and we just not doing what we need to do, and we're not seeking the guidance of God. He's like, what are you doing? Running around like like the hamster be in the cage and just spinning our wheels. We're just doing nothing. So that's where I was at. But yeah, I was thinking about working here, and he said, Mom, no, don't do that. He said, don't do it. That ain't what you want. So young man standing outside. So anyway, I just that's, and then a little bit after that is when I got the job at State Farm. So, and that wasn't where I was supposed to have been either. That was another fail. But I worked there for 3 months. Y'all, I just thought about something. So the job that I worked at, which was Kaiser, I worked there from November, December, January. Yeah, 3 months. And then I worked for State Farm for 3 months. I worked there from July, August, July, August, September. And then I think it was like the first or second weekend. Actually, I think it was the first week of October is when I got the job that I'm at now, which it's going on it'll be 2 years in October I've been there. Yeah, I just thought about that. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, so it was 3. I told y'all it's something about 3. It's something about 3. Yeah, 3. So, and that's how long I had been at the job for 3 years. The job in Tennessee before my late husband passed away. I had been working there for 3 years. And then, you know, the Lord said, resign, leave. And I left. And then rest is history. We here. And I ain't never resigned from a job, you know, because I like that job, but to be honest, that job was, you know, I felt like it was just a one woman show. Because like I said, they had a lot of people, which seem like I always get jobs like that. They focus on the people who are doing their work. They got what you call it? They alert is on people who doing their job. You know, they watching everything they do, looking for a mistake. But then at that job, you know, people could care less. They didn't even care. It's almost like they did everything in their power to be fired, and they still wouldn't let them go. They still wouldn't fire them. So that just tells you a lot about the leadership there. But you know, I liked working there because of the patients that I would talk to, and they would bless me, and I pray that I bless them as well. But because I just I took the bill payments. They would call, you know, after they had their mammogram or CT scan or something like that, and they call and they would just call us to pay their bill or bills or make payment arrangements. You know, it'd be different stuff like that. But so I actually like doing that job type of work. But like I said, it was just so much that, you know, you had to put up with, because, you know, it was days where I would tell my late husband, I said, let me put on the full armor of God today. Well, you're supposed to put it on every day, but I'm like, Lord, be with me. Just be a fence all around me, because like I said, it was just their job, they were doing all type of stuff on that job, and some of that stuff was not. It seemed like it was just very not ethical. But so as it was, you know, they fire people and for whatever reason, and then, you know, next thing you know, they're hiring some of them hiring y'all know anybody need a job, and y'all, if you on the job and they almost begging for people to telling you to recruit somebody, that, you know, that's not good. It's not good. You know anybody? But you know, but still they got to go through the drug testing and all that stuff like that. But I just don't think that's good. That's not a good work thing to do. You know, when you are, you know, if you're a manager or you're director or whatever, you know, you telling people to go scout. But I think people do that because of you know, people are quitting the job. They got a high turnover, so they know they already got good workers. So, you know, somebody, and you know, and I knew a lot of people, but I was like, I don't want them working with me. I don't even want the people I know working with me. So I would never, you know, follow through with that. But some of the other people, and then I would always say, okay, if you ain't doing your work, you gonna go recruit somebody that ain't gonna do their work either. So we're gonna have two more. There's gonna be 2 more people one more person in the company that ain't gonna be doing their work. So that's not good. It's not good at all. Because you don't like the work, so that means your friend or whoever you trying to bring into the company, they ain't gonna want to work either, most likely, because they probably just like how you are, because you their friend. So I was like, whenever they would say that, I know somebody that need a job, and I was like, Cause you know, there's some people, y'all, they just at a place of employment just to get a check. You know, they don't care nothing about following rules or guidelines or none of that stuff. They are there only to get their paycheck and go home. And they, you know, that's what, and that's not a bad way to be. But while you there at that job, you need to be following directions and doing your work and doing what you're supposed to do on that job is what I'm saying. You know, you don't have to be nobody's friend or nothing, but you need to be following the guidelines and the rules. But some of these people on these jobs, it seems like sometimes they feel like the job is their house. It seems like they, you know, there's no separation, and they do it on that job. They're not even, you know, like want to work. They're not in that work mode. They're in the lounge mode. You know, I'm gonna do what I want to do here. And like I said, that's not a good way to be either. But I thank the Lord, y'all, for my stepdaddy used to say that to me. He said, "You don't work at a lot of jobs." I said, "Yeah, I have." And I said, "I've learned a lot too, you know, through those jobs." But back in, you know, when me and my late husband first got married, I was all over the place because before I got the job, it was not until I got the job at Blue Cross where I sort of settled down, you know, in the job stuff. Because I stayed there for 5 years. I believe it was 4 or 5 years. And then after that job, you know, it started increasing. Like, it'll go to, you know, usually it'll go up to 3 years, I'll stay somewhere. So, but prior to, yeah, that's right. So Blue Cross, when I left the first time, they eliminated my position. I had been there, I think, 4 years. And then I left and I went back and I worked, I think it was 2 or 3 more years there. You know, but it was a totally different type of job. So, you know, I've had, like I said, I've had a lot of experience with jobs and people. And I used to say all the time, that's how I met a lot of the people that I knew in Tennessee. It was either through church or it was through, you know, I met them through a job. And most of them came from me working at Blue Cross. Because I met so many people at that job and became friends with them. And, you know, a lot of times we would have, the church we used to go to in Tennessee, we would fellowship, of course, with other churches in the city. And so I'll see somebody maybe I used to work with a couple of years ago, or I saw in my department and I had, you know, I would talk to whatever. I'm like, hey, you know, and I just always knew, you know, I would always see somebody I knew. But that's how, you know, that's how I came into knowing a lot of them. It was either through church or through work. And a lot of people, even my late husband's family, they'd be like, how's she? Because after church, you know, I'd be just standing up talking to people. You know, be talking to people out in the parking lot or something. But I would know them from a job or just through somebody else. And, you know, they would be looking like, how she know that person? And it could be a young person, older person, whatever. But I'm like, I used to tell my late husband, I said, I know a lot of people. And some of those people I knew also through my stepfather. You know, he had a car, not a car dealership. He had a car detail shop. And he met, you know, a lot of people that he knew, you know, the family knew, I ended up knowing. So it was just like that, y'all. Yeah. But to be honest, yeah, that's one thing I do miss. Like I said, I was telling the children, I miss talking to him more so than I do my mom. And I'm just being honest, you know, I don't come on here lying. I'm just telling the truth. I really miss talking to him because we had some really good talks, y'all. And I would call him up just randomly. And, you know, I call him Dad. Hey, Daddy, what you doing? He said, oh, I ain't doing nothing. And y'all, it'll just sometimes be a nothingness conversation. And then we'll end up talking about, you know, his mama, his mama passed away years ago. We end up talking about her, or we end up talking about back in Georgia, you know, when we were growing up, we used to go to Georgia, ride to Georgia and stay with family. But it was just a wide range of topics we would talk about. And I know my mom, she didn't like that because, you know, it seemed like me and him had better conversation. We had a more whatever conversation than I think him and her had sometimes. So, but, you know, it is what it is, or it was what it was. But, you know, I just, like I said, and even my late husband, he used to say, because sometimes I be, you know, I love to talk. So I would say to my stepfather, I said, Daddy, you hear, did you hear what I said? He said, yeah, I heard you. And I always could tell when he was getting tired, because he quit talking, you know, he quit saying stuff, you know, he just get quiet. And I said, okay, I'll let you go. But that's one person, y'all, I really enjoyed talking to. Out of, you know, of course I enjoyed talking to my late husband. We had wonderful talks. But I'm talking about, you know, as far as a, you know, a parent or whatever. But we had some good old talks. And I told him, I said, Daddy, I said, I didn't start liking in the heat of the night, because which I called her grandmama, but I said, grandmama, when she would watch that, when we would go visit her in Georgia, she'd be in the back room, y'all, in the back of the house. It was sort of like the living room, or like a little sitting area back there. And she had the back door open, and she'd be sitting in that chair. There wasn't no flat screen TV. It wasn't no flow model TV. It was just a little TV on a little table thing. And she'd just be sitting there, but that picture be so clear. She'd be sitting there and she'd be so close to the TV, where she'd be sitting there watching in the heat of the night. And when we walking down, because from the front door, you know, you go all the way to the back of the house, and we say, hey, you know, and just a quiet big old house, just an old big old house. And she be there, and she lived there with his sister, and her children. So it was just them in the house. But she just be, y'all, but you talking about content. She be so content. You think she back there she just be content. She loved that show. But I started watching that from I seem like I started liking that show just from, you know, because we would watch a little bit of it, but we mostly be sitting at there talking and stuff, gossiping or whatever, you know, about different stuff, family or whatever, news stuff or whatever. But she just be, but it would always be so peaceful, you know, sitting back there with her. And then she got sick. She passed away, I believe, in the year, I want to say it was 2000. I think she died in 2006. It was either 2005 or 2006 she passed away. Because I remember she died, I believe she died before my youngest daughter was born. She was born in 2006. So yeah, I think it was somewhere in there. But I'll never forget that, because she, y'all can see me. The sun is super bright. But I remember she got real sick. Me and my late husband and the children were little then, and we had got out of church. And we went to, then it was Bi-Lo. We went to Bi-Lo, and I think we went there to get some chicken or something. And we was headed home. And my stepfather called me, and he said, if y'all can, he said, y'all need to try to come to Georgia to see your grandmama. Said she ain't doing too good. And I said, okay. So and y'all, this is just how understanding and how loving he was. He was very selfless. And he said, because I sort of thought he was going, well, I know what it was. He didn't really want me to have to drive by myself and stuff. So he said, all of us will go. He said, we'll just go home and change. And because it only took like maybe like an hour and a half for us from where we were at in Tennessee to get to Georgia. And so he said we all will go. So we went home, we changed clothes, because we just got out of church, and we got on the road and we went. And I'm so glad we went, because that was Sunday. She died Tuesday. A few days later, she died. And I remember when we got in the hospital room, she wasn't eating or nothing, but she was so happy to see us. And I was just loving on her, hugging on her, and her name was Mary. And I said, hey, grandmama. I said, oh, and I just, but she was just so cold, y'all. And the nurse was trying to give us some food. She had some Ensure, and there was something else on that tray. And she said, I don't want it. And and she said, my grandma said, she said, I want to go home. I just want to go home. And the nurse said, well, if you eat your food and you get your strength back up, you can go home. You'll be going home soon. She said, She said, I'm not talking about this home. And she was talking about heaven. And so the nurse, I don't think she caught on to that. But anyway, she was just, she was ready. I could tell. And she was one that she didn't want a lot of people. She didn't want nobody fussing over her and having to take care of her and stuff. And that's how my late husband was toward the end of his days. He didn't want nobody having to do nothing for him. He wanted to do it himself. So independent. And so anyway, I jumped in the bed with her. So they was like, get out of the bed with her. She and my grandma said, she okay? And I just, kind of got up beside her because she's real small. I got up, laid up beside her, and I said, I love you, grandmama. She said, I love you too. And y'all, I just think back on that. She was, even though she ain't no kin to me at all, I just sort of like adopted all of them. I sort of, if you will, I just, they was like my extended family. Even though I had no blood, she wasn't my grandmama. I ain't really even know either mom. I didn't really know. I didn't get a chance to know my mom's mother, because I think she passed away when I was born or before I was born. And then my biological dad's mom, I didn't get a chance to. I never got a chance to meet her, or if I did, I was a baby. But so the Lord just put people in my life to love on me, and where I was mostly able to love on them and appreciate them. Because it seemed like some of them, the people in their own family, wasn't paying them attention, but the Lord said, you can be a blessing to them. And so that's what it was. But I remember her eyes. She had a glaze over her eyes, and I know what that means. That's death, because that's when I worked at a nursing home. That's what we would see in the patients right before they were getting ready to pass away. It was like a coating, a glaze over their eyes, and that's death. But anyway, she was just real cold to the touch, and not cold, but just she wasn't warm. But I was just loving on her, and I told her, I said, you don't want? She said, I don't want nothing to eat. And so, like I said, but everybody else, I was talking to her, but everybody else was ha 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 ha. Everybody else in there talking and laughing and stuff. And I think that was sort of not aggravating to her, but that was sort of a distraction, because when you're trying to be peaceful and be in the presence of the Lord, and just hear what the Lord's saying to you, it was a lot going on. It was a lot of commotion. But anyway, I think it was my mom. It was somebody. I think it was my mom. She was like, get out of that bed with her, just jealous then. And I said, and she's, like I said, I think my grandma told her, said, no, she okay. And so, but just jealous of that relationship, that we had right at that time, during that little bond we had. Because wasn't nobody else, everybody else was just standing over her, looked like they waiting on her to die. But I wanted to, talk to her and stuff and love on her. But anyway, yeah, so we come out of the hospital, because we were getting ready to head back home. But my stepdad and my mom and them, they stayed on, they stayed till she passed, yeah. They stayed to those days, because she passed away Tuesday. So they didn't come back home until, I think that Wednesday or something. And then they went back, because, they had to plan the funeral. Help with the funeral and stuff. But, so I had told my stepdad, I said, Daddy, I said, I believe she about to die. And he said, he just kind of looked at me, and I said, I said, he's working in a nursing home. I said, she got a glaze over her eyes. I said, I believe it ain't gonna be long. And then I think he said he believed it too. I think he said he sort of thought that too. And so he was like, I'm glad y'all came. I said, me too. But we went on back home, and like I said, they called us. I think she died, I want to say she died early that Tuesday morning. It's been so many years ago, but yeah, God allowed me to, love on her and stuff. Like I said, she was no kin to me, but she really was. Spiritually, she was. She didn't have to be by name or by blood, but it was through blood. It was through Jesus Christ. So I just think about that, y'all. You know, a lot of times, you know, we don't understand why things happen. And it seems like for me, I'm just talking about myself, you know, the people that I was born into the family of, they didn't care nothing about me, seemed like, including my mom. And they didn't want to spend time with me. So the Lord opened up other, you know, people to me by way of, you know, through my mom getting married. That opened up some more family members for me and people that I could, you know, be connected to. And because like I said, I didn't have no problem with none of them. I just went on. But my late husband, he used to say all the time, because my stepfather has 4 daughters. Of course, they all good and grown, and they got children and grandchildren of their own now. But he would tell me all the time. He said, them ain't your sisters. And because I would always refer to them like that, because, you know, I never really, you know, like I was always looking for somebody to love me. That's what it was too. I was looking for that validation through whatever way I could get it. And he would tell me, he said, them ain't your sisters. He said, they no kin to you. And I said, yeah, I know, but you know, but I always would be saying that, you know, they said, you got 4 sisters? Yeah, I got 4, you know, well, I got 5, because I had me and my stepfather and my mom got a daughter together, and then they got a son together. But of course, we got different daddies, my 2 siblings, me and them. But still, you know, we got the same mama. But yeah, I was always looking for somebody to, like I said, to, you know, who can I scout out for my family? You know, that's what I was looking for. Then that's when I was on Facebook, and I'd be like, you know, I'd be referring to them, you know, they'd be like, hey sis, or, you know, whatever, hey love, and you know, just looking for validation. But I don't have to look for it no more, y'all. I don't have to look for it no more, because I have it from Jesus Christ. I know who I am in Christ now. So I don't have to go around and search for that and get people to say they, you know, or do they say they love me, or do they really love me, or if they do this, then they really love me. I don't have to do that anymore. You know, I don't even care about that anymore. But I, you know, as I think back over the years, you know, it wasn't so much that was given to me, but it was so much that God allowed me to give to other people. I'm just gonna be honest with that. It wasn't about money or anything like that, but it was love. You know, I gave genuine love. I really enjoyed, you know, loving on people and talking to them and hugging them and stuff. And I remember the church we used to go to back in Tennessee. I just loved her. God seen all of this. He's seen every bit of it. But I loved hugging people at church, and I like hugging people wherever. But this one lady, it was this one time we had church service. I want to say it was on a Wednesday night service, Bible study or something. And or it could have been Sunday, I don't remember. But she said, go on somewhere without that hugging. And so, you know, some people don't, you know, they just don't like that. And then, you know, but when you hug, I feel like when you hug people, you give them, not only giving them love and showing them love, but, you know, it's a feeling of, you know, you got joy in you, so you spreading that joy to them. And that's a good thing. But it's some people, you know, they want to be mad or whatever. So that's a feeling of joy for them, or they know that may make them feel better, or I don't know, they may be trying to just, they don't want to feel bad. They want to stay in their little slump. But yeah, she told me I was headed toward her, and she said, "Oh, go sit down somewhere without that hugging." And I was like, wow. But I mean, it didn't stop me from hugging people. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna be hugging her. So just and you know, that was her you know, that was her decision. She didn't have to. I didn't have to. I'm back, y'all. Had to clear my storage once again. It's always got to be cleared. I have too much. I be having too many photos, and when I make, you know, after I make my videos and I upload them, I don't like to delete them till I know they've been successfully uploaded. So sometimes I forget to go back in and delete them, you know, the ones I've already uploaded. So that's what happened. But anyway, I was getting a little warm in here. I'm gonna turn this air up a little bit. But anyway, so yeah, I think what I was talking about was just how, how the Lord, has allowed me to, in the situation that I was in, I just made the best of it. And I was able to, love on people, and seemed like sometimes the unlovable. I still loved on them. I still treated them good. And seemed like a lot of them were sort of deceiving at first, or they seemed like they really loved me or liked me at first, family. And then, it went south for whatever reason, because it seemed like they got jealous of me. And I've shared this before, but I'll share it again, because somebody's dealing with this right now, and I thank the Lord that he pulled me out of that situation. But I'll never forget, it was the beginning of the end. But it's like the Lord was wanting me to pay attention to what was going on, and it wasn't even physical, it was spiritual. But this was, so like for years, as far back as I can remember, for Father's Day, for, Father's Day and my stepfather's, for his Father's Day and for his birthday. It was always a big deal on those 2 days. So like, Father's Day is coming up now for this year. So we're not there and we're not going back there. But I'm saying it was always a big deal. And so, because we was all going to get together. He loved Cracker Barrel. So we all going to go there. And so, in the beginning it was fun. It was so much fun to do that. But then it sort of like, how you feel people jealous of you, or they hating on you, or it just be different stuff I would feel. And so, and then keep in mind, on it was Mother's Day, but Father's Day, I want to focus on that. So Father's Day, we would, we go to our church in the morning, which was the church where my late husband's father, he preached there, or pastored there. He no longer pastors there now, but he was there for, I forget how many years, 30 something years, 20 something like that. But anyway, so we, that's just to give you a glimpse of how long that was going on. But anyway, so I would always let him know, on Mother's Day and Father's Day, we're not gonna stay at church. We'll come, but we're gonna leave. And so my late husband, he would stay, because that was his mom and dad was at that church. But we always had that understanding, me and the children, we're gonna go see, they're gonna go see their other grandparents, and we're gonna spend the day with them, because we didn't go to their church. So that's just something we did. And my late husband, he's like, okay, whatever, he didn't care. But so we did that for years. We did it for years. And then we were getting, I don't think it ever was where we didn't go to church. I think it was just, we would go to Sunday school, and then we say, see y'all, so where y'all going? So yeah, we're going on the other side of town, to be with them. And so we'll go, that's just what we did. That's what we did, and for years. And so this one particular, I think it was Father's Day. I want to say it was Father's Day. I don't think it was his birthday. I want to say it was Father's Day. It may have been birthday. I can't remember, y'all. But anyway, he was dressed so nice, y'all, and he was just dressed so nice. And wherever we would go, I would always put it on Facebook, take pictures of everybody, and he said, we know she gonna put them pictures on Facebook. They always tease me about that. I don't care, because I love memories. I said, we're making memories here. And so that morning before, I remember coming down the steps, and my late husband, he had said something to me, because I was headed to, this after we did this for years, but I was headed over there to the church, as we always had church with him, we fellowship with him at the church, because they would always, me and my children would get there before they would, and then we turn around like offering time or something, and all of them be in the back with their kids. So it was just a big to-do, y'all. It was a big to-do. Then we take a picture in the sanctuary, post it on Facebook, then we'll go eat. Where we gonna eat at? We always knew we were gonna eat at Cracker Barrel. It's never changed. And so everybody get on their car, go to the Cracker Barrel, sit and wait, hit the wait. It was just always the same. It was so predictable. And so, but it was fun. It was fun, because we only did it once a year, and it was just fun. And I actually look forward to it. But anyway, what was I gonna say? So that particular, whatever day it was, Father's Day or whatever, I remember my late husband, something, we was talking about something, and y'all, he was so right. It was God speaking through him. He was so right about that day. But he said something. He said, I think he was trying to get me not to go. He was like, because we were talking about something, and it was something that had been going on prior to that, you know, coming up to that Father's Day or whatever it was, and with his daughters and me. Not nothing mean or nothing, but it was just some uneasiness going on. And so he had told me, he said, I don't know. He said, you know, them ain't even your sisters, you know. And I said, yeah. I know, but he said, I'm just letting you know. And you know, it was just a thing. And so, but it was a warning, y'all. And I should have taken heed to it. But me, in my people pleasing spirit, in my stubborn, you know, being stubborn, and I know everything, I went on at the house and went on to the church, y'all. He couldn't have been more right. That whole Sunday was just, it was fine at church, but I was like, why are they acting so funny? You know, they were just acting different towards me. And I'm gonna tell you why. And so we got to the eating place, and I'm trying to think what year this was. I don't even remember, y'all. I don't even know what year this was. He passed away in 2021, so this was like maybe 20. It was before COVID, so it had to been like 2017, 2018, 2019, something like that. And so he didn't go, you know. Like I said, he always stayed. He said, because he seen all of them for how they were, and he's like, I pass. And I said, okay, we'll see you back when we get back home. And we just had that understanding. It wasn't that he was mad. He just didn't. He didn't like. He said I just can't deal with foolishness. And he was so right. And the reason I was dealing with it was because I was being a part of it, and I welcomed it. So you know, I couldn't see what he saw, but I see it now. So anyway, we get to the eating place, and I was acting like I always act, taking pictures and stuff. And I noticed, you know, a couple of the sisters were looking me up and down, and just, it was just weird, you know. It was just weird. And so, and they don't normally act like that towards me. And always, you know, it was always a genuine hug, and how you been doing, and how the kids, and this, that, and how. They always ask about him. And now, keep in mind, these are the women who, when on Christmas Eve we have our get together, they making sure he got a plate. It was one sister, it was two of them actually. No, actually it was all of them. Make sure you fix him a plate. And because sometimes I would be almost, you know, I would, not that I didn't love him, but you know, it'd be some of that, you know, some of that food. I'm like, yeah, I know he ain't gonna eat that. But they would always remind me, you gotta get him a plate. And they'll have him a whole little sack of stuff. And most of the time he would eat it. But anyway, going back to that restaurant, so he like I said, he had warned me. He had told me, God spoke through him to me. I ignored it. And he said, I don't know. He said, I don't think it's a good idea to go this time. And I said, no, you know, it'll be okay. And so, like I said, we got to the restaurant, and they were acting so funny that day towards me. And they even went as far as, now, at that particular time, they did not care for my mom. They did not care for her at all. You know, this was a lady that took their dad away from their mama years ago and basically stole, if you want to be honest about it. I don't sugarcoat stuff. She stole it. That's what she did from another woman. But anyway, that's another video. But because I didn't find that out till I got older and stuff, and then I understood a lot of stuff. But anyway, they didn't really care for her at that particular time. And one of the sisters, the one is, you know, we all got different characters, and so different personalities. So one of the sisters, she was very outspoken. Like, she just say whatever come up, come out. She don't care if you hurt your feelings. She don't care if you was in your feelings or out of your feelings. She just say whatever she wants to say, and you like it or not. She didn't care. And so this was the one. She had said, she had made a comment about my mom. Now, you know, keep in mind, my mom ain't, at the time, I didn't really care for her that much. All the stuff she had said about my late husband, you know, she had her ways, but she's still my mama. And I'm like, why are you talking about her in front of my face? And so anyway, she made a little comment about her or whatever. And we was standing in line waiting to pay for our food, that we had eaten. And she made sure she said what she said in front of me. She knew I was right behind her. And I was like, wow, ooh, what's going on here? What's going on? But it's like they were trying to trigger me or trying to make me mad or whatever, but they couldn't, because I didn't even care. And so then I sort of was remembering what my, late husband had told me. I was like, ooh, he was so right. I should have came here today. And so I should have called out on this one, but it was like the enemy was just using them that day. But we went outside, we took a picture, and I noticed, what I did notice, it was a color scheme going on. Me and my siblings, 2 siblings, we were all sort of matching. And we weren't trying to match. It just worked out that way. But I noticed his 4 daughters, they all had on the same color, along with the color of his suit. So I'm like, did they call him and plan that? They had to. And so, because he had on a new suit, I believe. My mom had got him a new suit. And then, I don't know if what they had on was new, but it was, when I look back at the pictures, I'm like, And y'all, still to this day, when I look at, I ain't looked at the picture in a long time, but when I was on Facebook and I would look at that picture, I'd be reminded of what happened that day. So that's so true, whatever was going on at the time during that, when you took that picture or whatever, it sort of stay with you a little bit. You remember, that's how you remember that time, that picture, that moment. I said, yeah, they was acting crazy that day. So anyway, we took the picture or whatever, and all of them were on, I noticed, we were all standing together, on either side of him. But y'all, it was such a disconnect. And then they were making comments, sort of snide comments about me, but trying to make like they was joking, And so anyway, it went on like that. And I was like, ooh, I just felt sort of dirty, because I was like, what happened? What's going on? But then I later found out, that's why you got to be careful what you tell people, because a lot of times people use it against you. And that's why I say, thank you, Holy Spirit. I really enjoy or miss talking to him, my stepfather. He's 90 years old now. I really miss how he talks and stuff, but he was a part of all that mess too. He was part of it too. And he didn't gossip, he didn't do a lot of talking, but he was a part of it. He didn't say this ain't right or that ain't right. He was a part of it too. And so the Lord said, nope, you got to separate from him too. Leave him alone too. Care if you're 100, leave him alone. So that's, like I said, that's what I've been obeying the Lord. And so anyway, I remember distinctly, me and him was sitting, a lot of times I would go to my mom's house, over their house. And he I don't know why he thought, I don't know what they thought, what kind of marriage they thought me and my late husband had. I guess they thought I was just being not tortured, but being talked down upon, or she just got a miserable life over there. I actually had a good life. I had a really joyful marriage. I really did. We weren't perfect, but we served the perfect God. But y'all, I figured out what a lot of people, what they despise. They despise order. And they didn't have, my stepdad and my mom, they didn't have that in their household. So, to them, when I'm doing whatever that makes my husband happy, or if I'm spending time with my husband, my children, I'm acting funny. I think I'm better than them. So when I would go to my mom, stepdad and mom's house, come on, you need to rest. You need to come in and enjoy yourself. And I'm like, what? I enjoy myself at home. And I was thinking to myself, I don't think you realize how much rest I actually get, because my late husband did everything for me. He did everything in that house. So that just let me know right there. They had no idea what was going on. They was just assuming. But anyway, we had sat down one evening or day, and me and him was just talking like we always do. Talk about church, talk about everything. And I believe this was before that event where his daughters were acting funny towards me. I believe it was prior to that, I want to say. But me and him was talking, and we were just talking. And I was just telling him a lot of stuff that was in my heart about them. And, because I had quit going to the little Christmas get-togethers and stuff. I just quit going because I felt something was off. I was like, I don't want to go over none of their houses, and they, you ain't gonna be mistreating. You're not gonna mistreat me, but you're sure not gonna mistreat my children. And see, back then, you know, I'm gonna get back with you. So to keep peace and to do what I need to do, I'm just gonna stay away from you. And so anyway, you know, we kind of slacked off on that. And then they was noticing, I guess they asked him, everybody was talking to him, like, you know, what's going on? Why they quit coming? Whatever. But we just quit going. I started just staying at home. My family, you know, my late husband, and we just, you know, even though it was sort of, it wasn't the same, because we really look forward to that, you know, doing that every year. But, you know, it started getting where something was not right. And it was spiritually. God was, he was tearing me away from them then. And I was listening, but I still was being a little resistant. And so, anyway, I had told my stepfather that when we sat at the table, we were eating. And I told him, you know, how I felt and this, that, and the other. And I said, yeah, I just feel like, you know, they may be a little jealous of me and your relationship. And I think I said something like that. And so he's like, yeah, you know, he old. He's like, yeah. So I believe y'all, and my late husband said it too, I believe he went back and told them what I said. And that's what triggered them. That's what got a lot of, because they started acting real funny towards me after that. But I told him that in confidence, in love. You know, I was speaking from my heart. But that's what I'm saying, y'all. People that you think got your back, people that you talk to them more than anybody else. Or you show them love more than anybody else, and they still double cross you. They still, you know, just do you in. So, which was fine. I'm glad they found out. Actually, they needed to know that. But my late husband used to say that all the time. He said, they jealous of you. He said, they jealous of your relationship with their dad. He said, he considers you his favorite. And I said, why you say that? And I sort of felt it, but I was like, why you say that? He said, cause. He said, you always calling him. You and him always going to the Waffle House. He said, you don't want to really pay him any attention. But I wasn't doing it trying to outdo them. I just did it because I loved him. You know, he's the only daddy that I ever really had around me. So I'm like, it was just effortless, really. But yeah, he said they jealous. He said they jealous of you. That's what's going on. And so, like I said, I knew it was truth to that, you know, but I was trying to ignore it. And, you know, I was like, well, no. But he was right. He was very right. And anyway, that's what he said. He said you should have. He told me, he said, you should never said that to him. He said, because I believe he went back and told them what you said. And he said, there it is. You know, that's why they acting like they acting. And I really believe to this day that's what happened. And if he didn't tell them word for word what I said, they got a pretty good idea of how I felt. And after that, like I said, it was the beginning of the end, because, you know, it wasn't the same. It was not the same. And we went from, you know, it was no confrontation and like that, but it went from the get-togethers being so fun and so engaging and so, y'all, when I tell you that was the biggest thing on this side of the earth, I would be telling, that's what, especially when I worked at Blue Cross, I would be telling people I work with, you know, leading up to it, because we only did on Christmas get together, but I would be telling them, we're getting ready to have our Christmas Eve get together, and they were like, sound like y'all have fun. I said, we do. And, you know, it was just so much fun. It was so genuine. And, you know, nobody was hating on nobody. Nobody was jealous of nobody. Nobody was trying to look and see what kind of car nobody had. You know, do I need to step my game up? You got more than I got, or it looked like you got more than I got. You know, it wasn't like that in the beginning. But seemed like, I don't know, like I said, I'm sure that's what happened. Everything took a turn. And there again, you know, when you tell the truth, when you be honest and quit faking and quit, you know, skimming around stuff, people don't like it. They don't want to hear the truth. They don't want you to speak your truth. They want you to live a lie. And God was calling me out then, like I said, and I answered the call. I said, okay. Because I told him, I said, you know, and like I said, now that I think back on it, I probably should not have said that, but maybe the Lord, you know, I feel like it happened the way God wanted it to happen. But I was in my feelings that night, and I just wanted him to know, you know, how I felt. But I actually thought, y'all, that he was gonna keep that to himself, But he went, I feel like and I think back on that so much, he told them what I said. And that's why they felt some type of way towards me about that. Because because it was true. It was true. And like I said, I didn't have nothing against them. I loved them. You know, I was like, I got some big sisters, you know. But they didn't look at me like that. They was always looking at what kind of car we had. And then we had some nice cars. We had some very nice cars. They were old, but he kept them clean. And another thing I know that they were jealous of, he was a provider. And 4 of his daughters, 2 were not married at the time, and 2 were. 2, I guess the 2, the same. I think it's still the same. It's 2 married and 2 not. And they would always see how he would take care of me and the children. And, you know, I pull up, you know, because whenever we had them get together, he shined that, whatever car I was driving, he shined that car up. And the car just be clean, inside and the outside. And it was just like we made it. Because, see, they remember me me when I was a little girl. You know, when they daddy left they mama to come with, you know, be with our family, you know, I was just a little girl. And so they remember that. And they like, okay, you know, she done came up. You know, that's what people say. No, I'm just, you know, God blessing us. It ain't no come up. It's just a blessing. But yeah, it was crazy, y'all. But I got so much stuff that don't happen to me. And I'm going to share, you know, little by little on here. Because I like to help people. It ain't to air out dirty laundry. It ain't no dirty laundry for me. It's the airing out it's telling the truth. That's what I call it. And people don't, like I said, there's so many people that are living a lie. They've been living a lie all their life. And they don't have no problem with that. You know, they don't want to live. They don't want to admit to stuff that don't happen to them. Because they like living how they living. But when I've said this so many times before, when you are willing to be honest and open about things that have happened to you, where the enemy has tried to come in and you know, just destroy you up, you know, pretty much destroy you. He come to steal, kill, and destroy. That's what it's saying in the Bible. But when he's tried to come against you so many ways, you got to tell the truth. You want to help somebody else because you made it. You made it out. And God said, you know, I got something for you on the other side. But like I said, it's a lot of people, they don't want to talk about stuff like that. You know, they want to, well, you know, that's just how they are. No, tell the truth. That ain't how it is. That's the enemy using them. But I'm so happy, y'all, like I said, that I'm away from all of that fake stuff. And it was a lot of faking. It was a lot of faking, a lot of pretending. And I participated in it too. I was guilty too. But I thank the Lord for growth. I thank him for bringing me out of the darkness into his marvelous light. I thank him for all of that. Because it's just been an eye-opener. And, you know, you think you're doing pretty good because you got a good job, you got nice cars, you know, you can go in your closet and get whatever you want to wear. You know, you feel like you just got it going on. You know, got a little money in the bank. But if you ain't got Jesus, you got nothing. You might as well, you have nothing. It's nothing. None of that stuff matter. You got to have Jesus Christ in your life. And that's what I was liking. That's what I was liking. But I got him now. I sure do. And I'm thankful that I have him. So, I wouldn't want to be in I say this so many times on this channel. I would not want to be in no other place than here. Because here, I know I'm in the mighty arms of Jesus. And I know that he's protecting me and my children. The lady I had met at the VA on Thursday, she said that. She said, God got his hand on y'all. I said, he do. Yes, he do. And I'm thankful he do. Because I don't want nobody else's hands on us but his. Because his hands are mighty. His hands are holy. But, you know, me and my children, we talk about my big children, we talk about that from time to time. And they said, Mama, they not doing, because, you know, they still follow them on Facebook and stuff. They see what they doing. They said, Mama, they not doing nothing. I said, exactly. And I don't say this a bunch of times on this channel. I said, son, I said, think about it. I said, we have done more here in Colorado since we've been here. This is a new place. We've done more here in these the years that we've been here. We've been here since 2022. We've accomplished much more in this short span of time than they have, and they've been living somewhere all their life. And he's like, yeah, mama, that. I said, yeah, it's true. Think about it. I said, it's true. It's very true. I said, I would rather be pulled out of a place that I've been in all my life to start fresh, start new, than to be somewhere stagnant forever and not growing, not doing anything, doing the same stuff over and over and over. You know, that's just me. And like I said, I told y'all, I cried out to Jesus. I said, I won't change. I said, I just want something. I want to do something different. I want to do something different. And Lord have mercy. Watch your words, cause hey, He answered the prayer. It wasn't the way I thought He was gonna answer it, but it don't matter. He answered it. Yeah, I prayed. I said, Lord, I just want to change. And He said, okay, I'm gonna give you a change. I'm gonna give it to you. It's on the way. October 2021. You gonna the 6th day of that month. You're gonna get the change you need. Not what you want. You're gonna get the change you need. Lord have mercy. And here I am, y'all. Here I am. Years later. I'm still here. So yeah, I just, like I said, I wouldn't have it no other way. I really wouldn't, because He just really been blessing us here and helping us, and there was a time where, you know, I was trying to depend on family members, you know, to help me financially and stuff, and He said, you don't need them. You got me. You got me. You got me, and that's all you need. That's all you need. And so I thank Him for that, y'all. I really do. People think that they think they hold power in their hand. Only power they got is what Jesus will give them, if He give it to them. But they, you know, that's what they think. You know, well, you know, you come to me if you need anything. You come to me, and I may give you $100 if it depends on how I feel, you know. But that ain't how it works. And I'm gonna share this because, like I said, I like being honest. There was a family member, I won't say who it is, but it was a family member that had mentioned to me, they had went, y'all, these glasses got a lot of scratches on them. Family member had come to me and mentioned something, and they said they went to this other family member. This is on my mom's side, but they went to another member in the family, and they asked them for a loan, you know, of course, for some money. And said the family member they basically said no in like 100 different ways. But so when just a little tip, if you go to somebody and you ask them, you know, can I borrow $50 or can I borrow $20, and they give you like all these different scenarios and stuff, you ain't gonna get that money. You won't get the money.
I have to do the urine test.
Oh, you have to okay.
I have to do that because it didn't.
I'll be back, y'all. Okay, y'all, I'm back from earlier this morning. It's almost 4 o'clock now. The last time I was talking to y'all, it was around 11 or so, or 10. It was 10 in the morning. But I've done so much since then. But anyway, I was at Amazon. I was taking my daughter to her interview and all that. So anyway, we at home now, doing laundry like I always do on Saturday, and cleaned up the kitchen and house smelling good and clean. Just doing the laundry. That's what I do every Saturday. That's just my little usual routine. I enjoy it because I like clean clothes, and I like you know, taking care of stuff, and I don't have to worry about my bedding. My bedding this Saturday, because I took care of that. I took care of that part. I think it was Friday. Well, actually, let's see. Yesterday was Friday. I watched it, I think, Thursday night, I think. But anyway, I've taken care of that, so I don't have to worry about that. Yeah, it was Thursday because I was off Thursday. But I wanted to hop back on here and finish the video from earlier. What I was saying, the last thing that I was saying. So I think I left off on the part about You know, if you go into somebody, a lot of people think they have rule over us, over you, over me, over anybody. You know, if they, I was sharing, a family member had shared with me, had come to me and shared with me that they had went to another family member. This was in my family, on my mom's side, and they basically asked them for some money. And so the person said, you know, they gave all these different scenarios, you know, basically, why you coming to me and you got a husband? You know, why you coming to me and, you know, why your husband ain't being a provider like he should be? Why you coming to me, another man, you know, even though I'm family, but why you coming to me asking me for money? You know, you taking out of my household. And even though you say you're going to pay it back. But anyway, the family member had expressed to me that had hurt their feelings, because they were like, you know, I know they had it, or I know the person had it, but they just didn't want to give it to me for whatever reason. So, you know, y'all, when that was shared with me, which has been so many years ago, you know, I sort of was like, well, you know, it didn't really stay with me, because I was like, well, you know, that's that person's prerogative. If they don't want to give you that money, loan it or whatever, they don't have to. You know, that's up to them. You can't make nobody do nothing. That's their money. So whether you think they got it or whatever, you know, that's up to them if they want to share it with you. You know, that's life. But anyway, the family member had expressed that it just didn't sit right with them, and how, you know, it just wasn't right. You know, if somebody come to you now, in that, there is some truth to that. You know, we are supposed to help one another. We are supposed to, if we are able to help somebody. I know I'm very, I would do it in a heartbeat, you know, and the Lord has even placed people in my spirit to help, you know, family members, even the ones that have talked bad about me, the ones that have called me crazy for moving all the way out here to Colorado. I've still blessed them, you know, in whatever way God told me to, you know, and didn't think twice about it. And, you know, and I'm not bragging, giving all honor, glory, and praise to God. But what I'm saying is that, you know, that person was right in that aspect of it. But in the other part, you know, a lot of times if God has not moved on that person and you know, open up for that person, their heart, open up their heart to help you, they're not going to help you. You know, that's just how it is. And, you know, and God had to reveal that to me. You know, when we were in the hotel here and we was, you know, the lease didn't get renewed last year, and we ended up with that lady at the church, you know, I was like, why ain't nobody helping us? You know, I was going around telling my testimony to everybody, but yeah, okay, well, hopefully you'll, you know, everything will be okay. You know, and then, you know, the Lord revealed to me, they were not helping you because some of them couldn't help you. You know, some of them they was trying to survive themselves, and then the ones that probably could have helped you, I didn't tell them to help you. You know, sometimes when we go through stuff, we got to go through the whole process, you know, because I'm quick to say, that was a bad decision on my part. So the Lord said, you know, you gotta learn from this. How you gonna learn, you know, if you running around looking for somebody to rescue you? And he said, I can rescue you. I can bring you up out of that situation in a second, in less than a second. But you gotta learn your lesson. You gotta learn so you won't ever do it again. And so I think that's what that family member, that lesson they had to learn. You can't be bailed out for something because you're going to do it again. But see, if that person say no, or if that person turn you down or whatever, you're like, you know what? Because, you know, you're going to get you're going to probably have a chip on your shoulder, but you're going to also have that mindset, you know, I'm not going to put myself in that position again. One, I'm not going to ask them for no money again, and I'm going to do what I need to do so I won't have to be in that situation again. So that's what the Lord is teaching me. You know, everything is not negative. Everything is not against you. People, you know, everybody ain't coming against you. Everybody ain't, you know, out to get you or whatever. It's just that we got to go through stuff, you know. And like I said, the family member, they were just like, you know, I know they got it. You know, that's not right. You know, I needed that, you know. But the family member said, nope. And so for whatever reason, but like I said, if the Lord don't move on somebody to help you and to bless you, they're not going to do it. Because a lot of people, you know, they just stubborn by nature. And then a lot of people selfish by nature. So they just ain't going to help you, you know. So that's why I shared a video about that way back when. Quit going to people to do, asking them to do what only God, what only God can do for you. Quit going to man. Man ain't got no power. Man ain't, can't make stuff happen for you. They can act like it, but God got the power. He got all the power in his holy hands. And he can make open doors that no man can shut. And he'll close doors that don't need to be open. But quit going to people, begging and pleading. I need $20. I need $50. I need to, can you help me pay my car note? God revealed that to me too. My late husband's family was acting some type of way just last year, and they was like, well, we can help you, we can do this, we can do that, but you got to do this. If you want me to help you, you got to do what I tell you. That was how it was. That's how it went. And I was like, I'm stubborn when it comes. Somebody tell me I got to do something, they say, I said, no, I don't either. I only do what Jesus tell me to do. And so, well, it was a stipulation on help. Well, if you don't do what I tell you, I can't help you. And I was like, wow, really? And like I said, a lot of times people reveal their heart by the things that they say, come out their mouth. Some of them care, some of them don't even care. They don't care. Some care, some don't care. But God will allow things to be revealed to us, y'all, and some of the stuff will shock us, and some of it, it won't. It just won't. But I continue to pray for his family. I continue to pray for my mom's side of the family. I pray for all of them. But I have, like I said, I've said so many times, I am so thankful that we are no longer there around them. I feel like they were vultures. I feel like they were manipulators, whatever you want to call it. They were just, sometimes people just take advantage of you and they feed off of you, use you up to, they use you till they can't use you no more. And, you thinking that they looking highly upon you, and they not. And the Lord had revealed that to me after my late husband passed away. The job where I was at, I had worked for 3 years, how they just completely turned on me, y'all. They turned on me. And cause I told them I was leaving the job, I was resigning, cause I was like, we leaving this, we're not gonna even live here anymore, and they didn't even care about why we was moving and none of the details, but they was just like, how dare you leave this job, cause they had been sending us cards and money and stuff. But like I said, whatever you do, and if you truly do it from the heart, you shouldn't want nothing in return. If it's genuine, if it's, okay, this is what I want to do this. I did that because I love that person. I did this because I cared for the person. Nothing ever should be said about it, ever in life. But that's how you know people's motive. If they bringing it back up, if they, you talking about something and they see you with something on, or you looking pretty nice or whatever. Yeah, you remember when I gave you that $50? If they doing stuff like that, it wasn't genuine. And I'd rather you not even give me anything or do anything for me if I got to hear it again. And whether I hear it again soon or long ways off, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That means you didn't do it from your heart. You had a motive behind it, so you can throw it back in my face. But yeah, y'all, we have been through so much, me and my children. But I thank the Lord for his grace and his mercy. He's kept us. He's still keeping us. And he's revealed people's heart to me, and how what they really thought of me all them years. I had so many of them up on pedestals, which I shouldn't have. They didn't belong up there. But what I mean is that I really loved them. And I still do. But I cared so much for them and about them, and I went out of my way, and I know Jesus saw that. I went out of my way trying to do whatever I could do for them. And I was neglecting myself, because see, I wasn't doing what I should have been doing according to the word of God. But I'm too busy trying to people please with them instead of pleasing God, So it was what it was, but what it is now is I got a relationship with Jesus, and I'm so happy I do. I'm so thankful that I do. So as always, I pray you always hear Jesus speaking through me, and not just me. I pray you're having a beautiful, blessed, restful Saturday. I got to shampoo my hair and get ready for church tomorrow. I was able to find me a really pretty dress to wear to church tomorrow. So I'm gonna do what I need to do and try to get a little rest. Usually on Saturday I'm out running around, but today was a little different. I had to take her to her appointment this morning, and I would have slept in a lot later, but we do what we have to do. And so I did that, and then like I said, we went and got something to eat. And then I'm trying to think what else. Oh, that's when I went to Burlington, that's when I found the dress. And y'all, they have really ladies, men too, but they have some really good sales there. And I've been sleeping on them because I normally go to Ross, but the dress I purchased that I wore for Mother's Day, I went in there, and where we live to where the Burlington at, it's only like I think like 15 minutes or so. So yeah, I was like, and the dresses, the dress I bought today was only like, I think it was like $16 or something. I was like, that's pretty reasonable. That's the kind of purchasing I like. So I'm gonna try to, build my wardrobe back up, because there's a lot of, I have to do that because a lot of clothes that we brought here, we brought so many clothes here, me and my children, and I had a lot of weight on me, but now I don't. So I just, I had taken a lot of stuff to the Goodwill. And so now, I'm like, okay, I need some, and I'd rather have, dresses and stuff to wear to church versus, we can wear pants, jeans, or whatever, but I like dresses. So I'm going to, work on building my wardrobe back up with that. And I like, sort of long dresses. I don't like short dress. I like the sort of long one. So anyway, have a beautiful, blessed rest of your Saturday. I love you, but remember, Jesus loves you so much more. The best is still yet to come for you and for me. God bless you. God keep you is my prayer. Thank you all for listening and for subscribing to this channel. Bye-bye.